So we've looked at a number of things. We've looked at forms of ethnic violence, ethnic conflict, assimilation, integration, multiculturalism, transnationalism. Now we're going to be looking at regional autonomy and incorporation. So let's go into full screen, and this is going to be one of the last parts of Chapter 5 that we're going to be dealing with. Ethno-national minorities pose a different sort of incorporative issue. Unlike immigrants who tend to assume that they need at some level to adapt and adjust to the culture of the receiving country, ethno-national minorities, so in Thailand that would be Malays, it would be Khmer, it would be Lao, it would be the Karen, perhaps Mon populations, Chinese populations. Ethno-national minorities have a long history with the geographic locale and assume that they have a right to survive as a group rather than acculturate into the larger society. Their identity is defined in part because of territorial claims they make. The case of the Francophone community in Canada's province of Quebec has been mentioned, but there are other examples: Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Basque and Catalan region in Spain. In all of these examples, some nationalist activities have defined their ethno-national group as a stateless nation and have demanded independence. In both cases, Northern Ireland and the Basque militant organisations have for decades engaged in campaigns of violence. The three other ethno-nationalist movements have largely repudiated or rejected violence, pursuing their political goals with ballots. They've organised political parties. This would not be possible in a repressive political environment such as the Franco period in Spain, in which the Catalonian and Basque nationalists were all forced underground. Though not as repressive, the Thatcher years in the UK were ones when the government did little to accommodate the aspirations of its ethno-national minorities. Existing nation-states are in general unwilling to allow their current boundaries to be reduced in size due to the withdrawal of one of its regions. Seeking to prevent such a situation from occurring can be contained by force, but this generally leads to increased levels of societal tension and conflict. As an alternative to repression, which does not advance the incorporation of minorities, nation-states have at their disposal a mechanism that accommodates ethno-national minorities while simultaneously preserving their regional integrity. The mechanism in question is the granting of regional autonomy. So this was precisely what Tony Blair did in the UK when it implemented the policy called devolution. What it meant was that Scotland and Wales were given considerable control over domestic policies in their regions. They could set policies regarding education, transport, commerce, rather than have it dictated from London. At the same time, foreign policy is determined solely by the central government. Scotland opened its own parliament, while in Wales a counterpart assembly was created. Why would the new Labour government launched by Tony Blair push such a policy? In part, in accordance with the dictates of multiculturalism, it was prepared to cede both Scotland and Wales had their own cultural history separate from that of England, and to agree that residents in both locales had a right to try to preserve their cultures. Related to this, both regions were poorer than the nation as a whole, and were considerably poorer than South East England, where London is situated. Thus, Part of their increased ability to set economic policies for their region was based on recognition of the fact that both Scotland and Wales had historically lacked control over their economic destinies. In short, devolution could be seen as a policy designed to promote both recognition or respect and redistribution. However, there is also an element of self-interest in the part of the nation state. The UK did not want the nation to be dismantled as a result of successful campaigns on the part of ethno-nationalist movements aiming for achieving independence. As early as the 1970s, commentators predicted the breakup of Britain. A little more than 2 decades later, he would write about life after Britain. The claim that Britain has somehow ceased to exist obviously has an element of hyperbole to it, but it is based on the assumption that the process of granting greater autonomy in the regions is a stepping stone on the way to full independence. This was clearly what the leadership of the Scottish Nationalist Party thinks. However, the reason that the government implemented devolution was that it thought that granting regional autonomy would defuse the separatist threat, insofar as it would be seen by the majority of people in Scotland and Wales as a sufficient response to their demands. As such, policy represents a gamble, and it's difficult to predict what the future will hold. However, at the moment, there's little likelihood that Scotland would become an independent nation, while the chances that this will occur in Wales appears to be even more remote. And there are similar dynamics in Catalonia and the Basque region. But in conclusion, as this chapter indicates, there are two ways or modes of incorporation that ethnic minorities that have experienced social exclusion came to become a part of society's mainstream: assimilation and multiculturalism. Transnationalism, which amounts to immigrants seeking to live with one foot in the homeland and one in the receiving nation, serves to reinforce multiculturalism at the expense of assimilation. For ethno-national minorities, the indigenous peoples, policies granting regional autonomy also serves to promote multiculturalism. Thus, it is not surprising that, despite the controversy that surrounds it, multiculturalism ought to be seen as a novel form of societal inclusion that is unlikely to be repudiated. Okay, so that is the final part of this book that I'm going to be summarising for you. I hope that you've been reading it along with the book open, and I hope that not only the bits that I've been helping summarise for you, that you've been underlying words that you don't recognise, but that when you read PDF versions of other parts of the book, that you'll be able to also make sure that you use the highlighting tools in Adobe Reader or Adobe Acrobat Pro, so that you can go back and you can find out, get definitions, get translation of these difficult words for you. Okay, so we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.